You are too stressful, Jasmine. The words didn't come from a stranger. They came from my mother, Catherine, as she cornered me near the dessert table at my sister Sophia's rehearsal dinner. The air in the ballroom smelled of lilies and expensive champagne, everything I had curated down to the last detail. She adjusted the lapel of my blazer as if I were a child. Sophia needs tomorrow to be perfect, and your energy is just heavy. So, David and I think it is best if you stay in your hotel room during the ceremony. We will tell everyone you caught a bug. It wasn't a request. It was an eviction notice from the event I had single-handedly funded. $45,600. That is what this wedding cost. And the woman who spent $0 was telling the woman who spent everything to disappear. I looked at her, then at Sophia, who was laughing across the room, completely oblivious, or maybe just complicit. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just nodded, turned around, and walked out. If they wanted me gone, they were about to get exactly what they asked for. Before we dive into the wreckage, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been the wallet for your family? Where are you listening from tonight? The hotel room was quiet, insulated from the laughter and toasts happening downstairs. The only sound was the low hum of the air conditioner and the rhythmic clicking of my laptop keys. I didn't crumble. Collapsing is for poorly built structures. And I was still standing. I was the architect, after all. That is what they called me when they needed something built, planned, or fixed. But tonight, I was decommissioning the project. I opened the folder labeled Sophia's Wedding, Master Vendor Contracts. Every single document had my name at the top. Jasmine Reynolds. Not Catherine. Not David. Not Sophia. Me. I was the signatory. I was the liable party. And according to the terms I had negotiated so carefully, I was the only one authorized to make changes or cancellations. I started with the venue, the exclusive botanical garden and glasshouse estate. I typed out the email to the coordinator, a woman named Elise, whom I bad bonded with over color palettes and lighting schematics. Subject line, urgent cancellation. Contract, number 49201. My fingers hovered over the keys for a second, not out of hesitation, but out of a strange sense of finality. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the event scheduled for tomorrow is cancelled effective immediately. Please lock the facility. Sent. 11:45 p.m. Next was the catering. High-end, sustainable, farm-to-table, thousands of dollars in deposits and final payments, all drawn from my savings. I sent the notice. Cancel service. Do not deliver. Sent. 11:52 p.m. Then the florist, the musicians, the rental company for the vintage glassware Sophia had insisted on. One by one, I dismantled the dream I had bought for them. It was surgical. There was no rage, just the methodical execution of a business decision. If I wasn't welcome, then neither was my money. Neither was my effort. Neither was the entire infrastructure of their perfect day. By 12:15 a.m., it was done. The perfect wedding was now just a series of cancellation confirmations flooding my inbox. I closed my laptop and walked to the window, looking down at the city lights. I felt a phantom weight lift off my chest, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. They thought I was just the wallet, the silent partner who would pay the bills and stay out of the frame. They forgot that the person who writes the checks also holds the power to stop payment. Tomorrow morning, they would wake up to a locked gate and an empty garden. They would wake up to the reality of what a wedding looks like without the architect. And for the first time in years, I slept without the crushing anxiety of trying to please people who could not be pleased. I slept like a sovereign in her own kingdom, watching the bridges burn from the safety of my tower. When I was 12, I asked Catherine why Sophia got piano lessons and I got a chore chart. She didn't look up from her magazine. She said, "Because Sophia has a gift, Jasmine. You have capability. We nurture gifts. We rely on capability." That was the moment I understood my role. I wasn't the daughter. I was the staff. I was the one who fixed the printer, drove Sophia to practice, and eventually paid the bills. I looked at the cancellation receipts on my screen, glowing like little tombstones. $45,000? Why did I pay it? Why did I fund a wedding I wasn't even welcome at? It wasn't because I loved weddings. It wasn't even because I loved Sophia, though I tried. It was because I had learned a very expensive lesson early in life. In this family, affection was a subscription service, and the price kept going up. It started small, picking up the tab for family dinners where I was barely spoken to, covering Sophia's rent when she needed to find herself in Europe. And then this wedding. Catherine had presented it not as a request, but as an opportunity. "Imagine how proud everyone will be,"
Mom?
she had said, "when they see what you have done for your sister." I fell for it. I always fell for it. I thought if I just paid enough, built enough, gave enough, I would finally buy my way into the inner circle. But tonight, alone in this hotel room, the math finally clicked. I wasn't buying love. I was paying rent for my own existence. I was buying silence, the absence of criticism, the temporary suspension of their disappointment in me. I was paying for the privilege of being tolerated. And the moment I stopped paying, the lease was up. I walked to the mirror and looked at myself. I looked tired. Not just sleepy, but soul-weary. The kind of tired that comes from carrying people who are perfectly capable of walking. "No more," I whispered to the reflection. Eviction notice served. I wasn't just canceling a wedding. I was canceling the subscription. I was closing the account. And for the first time in 29 years, my balance was finally zero. Morning broke over the city, gray and indifferent. I hadn't moved from the window for hours, watching the sun inch its way up the glass skyscrapers. My phone, which had been silent all night, suddenly vibrated against the nightstand. Then again, and again. A steady, frantic buzz that signaled the end of the world, or at least, the end of their world. It started with a text from a cousin I barely spoke to. "Hey, we are at the venue. The gates are locked. Is there a code?" Then came the voicemail from Tyler, the groom. His voice was high and thin, the sound of a man realizing his safety net had vanished. "Jasmine, hey, there is nobody here. The caterers aren't answering. Sophia is freaking out. Call us." And then, Catherine, my mother. Her texts arrived in a rapid-fire assault, each one more desperate and accusatory than the last. "Where are you? Pick up the phone. This isn't funny, Jasmine. Fix this. You are ruining everything. You are jealous and spiteful, and you are destroying your sister's life." I watched the messages roll in like weather reports from a distant storm. I felt a strange detachment, as if I were reading about someone else's life. Jealous? No. Spiteful? Maybe. But destroying her life? Then came the social media notification. Catherine had posted a status update, a picture of the locked gate, with a caption that was a masterclass in vague booking. "Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who let you down. Praying for strength today as we navigate ungrateful children and broken promises." Ungrateful. The word hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I had given them everything. My time, my money, my energy, and their response to losing it was to call me ungrateful. It was almost impressive, the sheer audacity of it. I finally picked up my phone, not to call them back, but to open the app for the security cameras at my own apartment. I checked the feed. Empty. Good. I checked my bank account. The refund pending notifications were starting to appear. Also good. I was safe. I was solvent. And for the first time in my life, I was completely, utterly alone. The silence in the room wasn't lonely. It was spacious. It was room to breathe. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the cool, conditioned air, and let it out slowly. Let them panic. Let them scramble. I was done being the firefighter for their arson. My phone rang again. "Catherine." I declined it. Then a text. "You need to come here and fix this immediately. We have guests arriving. Fix it." As if I were a plumber and the toilet was overflowing, not as if I were a human being who had been discarded. I picked up my phone, but instead of calling her, I called Sarah, my lawyer. We had gone to college together, and she was the only person who knew the full extent of my financial entanglement with my family. "Hey, Jasmine," she answered, her voice professional but warm. "I saw your texts." "You canceled everything?" "Everything," I said. "But I need you to check something. I want to make sure I am fully insulated from any liability claims. Can we review my accounts? I want to make sure every penny I spent is accounted for, so they can't claim I breached any agreements." "Sure," Sarah said. "I will pull up your credit report and recent activity just to be safe. Give me a second." I heard her typing in the background. I waited, watching a pigeon land on the ledge outside my window. It pecked at the glass, then flew away. Lucky bird. "Jasmine." Sarah's voice changed. It dropped an octave, losing its warmth. "Are you sitting down?" "Yes." "Why?" "There is a new loan on your report. A personal loan for $15,000. Opened 3 months ago." I frowned. I didn't open a loan. I paid for everything with savings and my main credit card. "It is here," she said. "The lender is a digital bank. The purpose is listed as travel and leisure. The cosigner, well, there isn't one. It is just you. But the contact email isn't yours. It is catherinereynolds88@email.com. The room spun. Catherine's email. My name. "Is there a signature on file?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "It is a digital signature," Sarah said. "But the IP address for the application?" "I can trace it." "Hang on." A few seconds of silence that felt like hours. It originated from a residential address in the suburbs. "Your parents' house." I closed my eyes. The honeymoon. Sophia had been bragging about upgrading their honeymoon to a first-class package, raving about how generous Mom had been. Catherine hadn't been generous. She had been criminal. She had stolen my identity to pay for Sophia's luxury, assuming I would just absorb the debt like I absorbed everything else. Assuming I would never check. Assuming I would never fight back. "Jasmine?" Sarah asked. "This is fraud. Identity theft. This changes everything. It is not a civil dispute anymore. It is a felony." "I know," I said. My voice was steady, cold. "Print it out. All of it. The loan documents, the IP trace, the timestamp. I need it all. What are you going to do?" "I am going to brunch," I said. I drove to the Ridgewood Social Club, a place where the membership fee cost more than my first car. It was where Catherine went to feel important, surrounded by people who judged worth by zip codes and designer labels. Today, she would be trying to spin the locked gate disaster into a sympathetic story of victimhood. I parked my car and checked my appearance in the rearview mirror. I wasn't dressed for a fight. I was wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt. No armor. Just me. I grabbed the folder Sarah had prepared, a thick stack of paper containing the cancellation confirmations, the loan documents, the IP trace, and the police report I had filed on the way over. The dining room was full. The brunch crowd. I spotted them easily at a table near the window. Catherine, David, Sophia, and Tyler. They were huddled together, heads bowed, likely crafting the narrative. Catherine was dabbing her eyes with a napkin, performing her grief for anyone watching. I walked straight to their table. The room quieted as I approached, the clinking of silverware dampening. Catherine looked up, her face a mask of shock that quickly curdled into anger. "Jasmine," she hissed, "what are you doing here? Haven't you done enough?" "Not quite," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but in the sudden silence of the room, it carried. "I am here to return something." I dropped the folder onto the table. It landed with a heavy thud, sliding across the white tablecloth and knocking over a crystal water glass. Catherine flinched. "What is this?" David asked, reaching for it. "That," I said, pointing to the top document, "is the cancellation receipt for the wedding I paid for. $45,000. Since I wasn't welcome, I figured my money wasn't either. A murmur rippled through the nearby tables. Catherine went pale. You petty little. And that, I interrupted, pointing to the document underneath, is the loan application for $15,000. Opened in my name, with a digital signature traced back to this house. Sophia looked at the paper, then at her mother. Mom? It was a mistake, Catherine stammered, her voice rising in panic. I was going to pay it back. I just needed. You stole my identity, I said. To pay for a honeymoon upgrade. Because apparently, my savings weren't enough for you to exploit. Jasmine, please, David said, looking around at the staring faces. Let's discuss this at home. I don't have a home with you anymore, I said. I filed a police report this morning. Identity theft is a felony, Catherine. You can explain your mistake to them. Catherine slumped in her chair, the air leaving her like a deflated balloon. Without my money, without my compliance. She wasn't the matriarch of a powerful family. She was just a woman who had committed a crime to maintain an illusion. The power in the room shifted instantly. The waiters paused. The other diners watched, not with pity, but with judgment. I looked at Sophia. She was staring at her mother with a look of dawning horror. Tyler was reading the loan document, his face ashen. I am done, I said. I am done paying for your lives. I am done buying my seat at this table. It is too expensive. I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. I didn't need to see the wreckage. I knew exactly what it looked like because I had designed the demolition myself. The fallout was swift and absolute. The police report triggered an immediate investigation. Catherine, faced with undeniable digital evidence, tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, a family loan gone wrong. But the bank didn't see it that way. Identity theft is identity theft, regardless of the bloodline. She was charged with fraud. Her status at the Ridgewood Social Club was revoked, not because of the crime, but because the scandal was too messy for their tastes. The family fractured along the lines I had drawn. Sophia, stripped of her honeymoon and her perfect wedding narrative, blamed Catherine entirely. She posted a long, tearful video on social media about betrayal and toxic mothers, conveniently forgetting her own role in the exploitation. Tyler, horrified by the criminality of it all, filed for an annulment before the ink on the marriage license was dry. David, the silent enabler, finally found his voice, only to use it to beg me to drop the charges. I blocked his number. I returned to my own apartment, but it felt different now. It wasn't just a place to sleep between family crises. It was a fortress. I spent the next few weeks redesigning it. I painted the walls a deep, calming sage. I bought a velvet sofa I had always wanted but deemed too impractical. I filled the space with plants, books, and art that spoke to me, not to anyone else. One evening, sitting in my new living room with a cup of tea, I opened my laptop, not to check emails or pay bills, but to start a new project. A design for a community center, pro bono work for a local shelter. It was work that mattered, work that was appreciated, work that didn't require me to bankrupt myself to be valued. I thought about the architect title they had given me. They meant it as a utility, someone to build their stages. But I realized I was the architect of my own life. I had torn down a condemned building to clear the ground for something new. It was lonely sometimes, yes. The silence was still vast. To everyone out there who has ever felt like the spare child, the wallet, the fixer, stop. You don't need to buy your seat at the table. If you have to pay for it, it's not a family table. It's a customer service counter. And you deserve better service than that. Close the account. Cancel the subscription. Walk away. Because the only thing more expensive than leaving is staying and paying with your soul. If you have ever had to buy your seat at the family table, this is your sign to stop paying. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more truths we are too afraid to say out loud.